Welcome to Los Angeles. Welcome to the Rizzo Run Club podcast. Welcome to the Rizzo Run Club podcast. My name is Rizzo, and I'm based here in Los Angeles. This podcast is dedicated to the city of Los Angeles, and many of the stories you will hear today, we hope that it inspires you within your own communities or wherever you are, wherever you're listening, to get out and make a difference. Again, my name is Rizzo. I'm based here in Los Angeles. I run all over the LA running community, the nation, and the world. And like I said, this podcast is dedicated to the city of LA. It's also dedicated to the 40th running of the LA Marathon, which will be March 2025. And as I've mentioned on previous shows, I am making this race accessible to people who cannot afford to run this race. Registration fees get higher and higher each year with races. And for the 40th running, I feel like it's going to be such a big celebration in the city of LA that I want everyone to participate who wants to participate. So I will share more details how you can get involved in donating and also how you can apply to ask for assistance for your registration fee for the 40th running of LA Marathon. But today, my guest is from the Los Angeles area. He's my friend, and he is LA Marathon ambassador and a 2 hour, 46 minute. Is that right?
That's right. That's correct.
2:46 PR in the marathon. He's a face here in the LA running community that everyone loves and adores. So please welcome my first guest, Smalls, Miguel Peralta. Welcome to Rizzo Run Club podcast.
What's up, Rizzo? Thank you for having me here.
Yeah,
It's so cool. Glad to be a guest on your podcast.
Yeah,
excited for this program to pop off and really get the wheels rolling.
Hell yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. Before I dive into your story, I have to ask you the most important question. I've been thinking about this all week, right? So when we have like major events here in Los Angeles, do you really give autographs and kiss babies and take pictures of babies?
Actually, yeah, of course, a lot of my friends kind of are on board with that joke and all that stuff. So we have this inside thing of like people like making a fake line and, you know, for autographs. Yet the babies to be held, but you know, it's always there.
Yeah.
Just to include everybody. Yeah. There's no age discrimination out here.
I love that.
Yeah.
And your famous slogan, I'm gonna mess it up, so you have to say it.
I have a couple of these. Yeah. So all gas, no brakes is maybe what you're thinking about.
Yeah,
That's the one that I've been going heavy on.
Yeah.
It's really embodied my type of racing within current years, where it's all effort and leave everything out there on the line. You know, it's not go out there and run like a dummy and, you know, burn yourself out. But, you know, regardless of what pace you're at, you know, just put everything forward and just make sure you're putting your best foot forward.
Yeah. What's the other one?
I have an all gas, no brakes, and what is the other one?
The way you say it, though, is usually all gas, no brakes, baby.
Oh, yeah, the baby. We always have to throw that out there.
Yeah.
So, it's funny, too, because that kind of started off as like, you know, when you are at the start of a race, you're anxious and you have all the nerves building up. Yeah. So to alleviate that, you know, shouting out a warrior cry, if you will.
I love that.
That was my thing. So at the start of any race, a 5K, marathon, half marathon, whatever it may be, you'll catch me yelling out. And there's actually an extended version of it, shouting out one of the run clubs I pertain to. And it goes, all gas, no brakes, baby. Wapo boys, let's go.
Yeah, I love that.
That's the PG version.
PG version. It is YouTube. You can say whatever you want, by the way.
We'll keep it safe.
Yeah. So before we dive into your story, you know, part of this podcast, you know, is dedicated to the 40th running of LA Marathon and coming up in March, which you are going to run, I'm assuming, of course.
Yeah, I'll be back. Yeah. I'll be back running it. I haven't missed one.
Yeah.
So it's the hometown race. The vibes are always high. The run clubs are bigger and show up more now than ever. So it's one you can't miss if you're a LA native.
Of course.
Or if, you know, you guys have seen us on Instagram and seen the vibes on Instagram, come on out. You know, I'm welcoming folks from, I know folks out in New York, Colorado. So all you guys need to come out. My Chicago folks.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Heck yeah. Yeah. So part of this podcast is, of course, like I said, mentioned, it's for the 40th running. And what I want is for like people in Los Angeles and people from across the country, or even the world, that are thinking of coming to LA next year to run this race. I feel like this course is a tough course. That's my personal opinion.
It is a challenging course. Like on paper, it's tougher than Boston, right? There's more elevation. It's more of a dice roll with the weather. As of recent, it's been cooking up and it's getting pretty hot.
Yeah.
And there's always within the marathon, the resources kind of like dwindling towards the back of the pack runners too.
Yeah,
so it does have its own unique challenges, most of it being elevation.
Completely agree. Yeah. And you are an LA Marathon pace leader, and you've been doing this for how many years?
I've been pacing for roughly over a decade.
Yeah.
I started with the 3:15 group, and then that was the fastest pacing group at the time, and slowly kind of jumped up to 3 hours. And then for the first time this past year, we actually integrated a 2:55 pace group.
Right, which was my next point. Is the first time I had Coach David Levine here, who's the coach of the LA Roadrunners.
Yeah, shout out Coach David.
Yeah, Coach David. He made it a point in our conversation to bring up that it was the first time, and that you actually beat it. The actual time was
I got 2:54:01,
which is amazing.
Yeah,
and I mean, like, yeah, that was your job, and to bring everyone in at 2:55. I understand that, but I remember conversations with you prior to the race. You were kind of feeling a little of the pressure, like, it is a lot on your shoulders.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's hopes and dreams to Boston qualify is on the line. So I think that added a little bit more of the pressure. Yeah. And then part of me is that I'm a perfectionist. Like, I would carry that around with me if I bonked and didn't hit the mark, went over or went too fast.
Right.
So like getting it dialed in has always been like one of the biggest pressures that come onto my side of things.
I mean, anything's possible on race day, right? No matter how much you prepare, something could go wrong.
And all the unpredictables, mostly weather.
And you're the guy holding the stick. And
so that's one of the biggest things too. Like, you don't have your optimized form, your arm swings, you're holding the stick, you have a little bit of a drag, you're exhausting other muscles that you normally don't by holding that stick.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this, I'm pretty exhausted the next day, like my shoulders, my arms, but so
I mean, I've run several races. You show up and you decide to run with a pace leader. It's like you're putting all your trust into this person that you've just met on the starting line, right? And you're kind of hoping that they can fulfill their job. And I kind of feel, and I know my wife agrees too, like 9 out of 10 times they don't do their job. They go out too fast. They don't, and I guess the point I'm trying to make is, I remember when you did the 2:54, you posted on your Instagram and you mentioned something about you picked like the perfect strategy to run that course. And I, like I said, I want people to come here and know and get some insight. What is the best way to conquer this course? And you have it, man. It's unreal what you did.
I think there's different layers to this course specifically. Just because it's very technical. You have your uphills, your downhills, they're rolling. You get your flat through Hollywood. So knowing how to measure yourself is the best way. And there's so many techniques out there. I kind of figured out what kind of works for this specific course at my pace, right?
Right.
Maybe it will vary a little bit depending if you're in the middle of the pack or back of the pack. And there's different strategies for that. But at least for where I'm at right there is to kind of take advantages of the downhill. That way you could take it easier on the uphills and then cruise throughout the flat. And then as far as pacing is to have a range and not to stress out when you're out of that range for too much, because there's plenty of room to catch up.
Right. And do you feel like when you started the race that you actually went slower? Wait, first of all, what is the 2:55? What's the pace for that?
For the pace for that, you're looking right around like a 6:30 to like a 6:40 type of range.
So then at the beginning of the race, you weren't actually going out 6:30, 6:40. You were kind of just
I was trying to hold back as much as possible.
Okay.
I think maybe at that point I was like at 6:35, pretty close to to the faster pace. But that's because we're at a Dodger Stadium and we're entering immediately into a downhill.
Yeah.
But I was making sure not to overcook too much.
Right.
Yeah.
So you go down Sunset. You come out of Dodger Stadium, go down Sunset, get into Chinatown, fairly flat. Get into downtown LA. It's still kind of flat.
Yeah.
What is your strategy when you're going up Walt Disney Concert Hall in that area? Just pull the group
pull back at least 30 seconds slower to 45 seconds slower. There's no harm, no foul right there because it's only like a quarter mile of uphill. Only a quarter mile. That's pretty significant. Sorry, guys. But yeah, after that uphill, you have your flat and you have your replenishments right off the bat.
Yeah.
So, and then you jump into what's flat and then you go into the downhill. So that makes it easy for you to recover, kind of hit cruise control real quick and catch your breath before you get into another segment of hills.
Yeah. So then you leave, you go past the LED WP building, and then you go uphill, kind of uphill to Echo Park, right? And the past Echo Park and Sunset all the way down to Hollywood kind of seems like it's a straight shot down almost.
Oh yeah, that's where you get a lot of recovery as well.
Where you pick up,
like or bank some time, if you will. Usually I don't try to bank out too much time.
Sure.
Like if you're 5 minutes ahead, you're cooked.
Yeah.
Usually I want to have like a minute to 2 minutes of buffer, if you will.
Yeah. And any critical parts of the course that in the later miles that you feel are something needed to really pay attention to?
For the course, I think you should bank at least a minute to 2 minutes leading up to Santa Monica Boulevard.
Yeah.
It's exposed and you have the rolling hills right there. Yeah. And not only you go into a roller, you go into a gradual hill up Sepulveda Boulevard.
Yes.
And all of that, if it's a hot day, the sun's out, you have no cloud coverage, like you're going to get, you're going to feel it there, and you're going to wish you had like a nice hat, some glasses, and a personal umbrella following you.
Serious, right?
So by banking in some time right there, you could kind of alleviate the pressure of keeping to pace and slowing down 10 seconds to like 30 seconds and then recovering.
Sure. Mile 20, you kind of turn that corner, you kind of hit the Pacer Nation there on the right, right? That's that pretty long stretch that leads to the freeway underpass. Mm-hmm. It's brutal, man. Like, I mean, what do you do at that point?
That segment's pretty daunting. I like what LA Marathon did this year, where they assigned more cheering stations right there. They have the coveted. Well, I don't know if it's coveted, but it's the traditional UCLA versus USC type of deal going down there. They appointed a band out there as well and a DJ underneath the bridge. Yeah. So I felt like that alleviated like the stress of just being there on your own. It's pretty usually pretty quiet, and this time there's some energy out there to help you push through. And
then I guess the turnaround's pretty easy, and then at that point it's just kind of a straight shot down. Home free. But major kudos to you, man, for doing what you did. It's just phenomenal. I mean,
it was nerve-wracking because we've never done that. And it's very rare for a marathon to have a 2:55 pacer, because usually they'll have like up to a 3-hour marathon pacer just for the Boston cutoff. But now like the 2:55 is going to be like the buffer, right, to make sure that you have the best chance possible.
Do you think it's here to stay? Was there a lot of runners at the start line with you?
Yeah, so this was the best thing that I was able to do at the start, is to actually communicate with the runners and check in with them to let them know what the plan is. In previous pacing jobs that I've had, I'm always like, oh, we're like 30 seconds ahead, we're 30 seconds back. And I'm like, well, I'm on time, but like if you're behind me and you're sprinting to catch me up, that's going to throw off your pacing. And so I told them and I gave them a range of like, hey, if you're planning on doing this, keep me in sight. You're able to step back a little bit if you need. I'm going to run with a little bit of a buffer. And then I'm pretty good at communicating while racing as well.
That's good.
So I give the guys a heads up like, hey, right turn, you're going to have water at the right, on the left. we're about to go up on an uphill. We're going to bring it back a little bit. I'll give them instructions to shake out their arms, focus on their foot strike, or their shoulders, if they're, stressed or anything
That's
like
amazing.
that.
Yeah. That's the way it should be.
Yeah.
That's
and
amazing.
and I feel like that helps a lot of people a lot too, because it alleviates like them having to think and all that.
Of course.
I mean, part of having a pacer is for the runner not to have to stress about the time or anything like that. And then when you're strained, you can't do math, and you don't know what you have left in the bank. Yeah.
I guess it's just amazing. You'd obviously, you had a strategy. You studied that course. I mean, there is an advantage, to really looking ahead. I know a lot of people, when they run races, they don't want to know what's coming, but you have a strategy. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It's very, very impressed. How many runners ended up crossing with you?
So here's the cool thing. I had a pretty large group at the start, leading up to like mile 18.
What would you say, large ballpark?
Shoot. I got a couple photos of it. I think it was maybe 30 heads.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit more from that.
It's a big.
And then getting to mile 18, that's when things got crazy.
Sure.
Because at that point, from 18 to 20, I had instructed to them, depending on how you feel and your strengths, whether you still have more in the tank or you could push a little bit, that's where you could take off and even go further below at that point.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people took me on, and boom, they took off.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So people that stuck to me like glue, I think it was at least 5 or 10 people that stuck onto me next to me.
That's so
and
cool.
the best part is crossing that finish line and seeing people right there and coming back, giving you dabs, hugs, and all that stuff.
It's a celebration.
Yeah,
my God.
It's so huge. It's undescribable on that feeling. Yeah.
For yourself too. I mean, just helping these people accomplish, their whatever BQs or
or their
bests.
lifetime goals. It's pretty cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, big ups to you, man. So,
thank you.
We'll get back to LA Marathon in a second, but so let's go back to you and your story.
Yeah.
You're born and raised Los Angeles.
So I was born in Mexico,
in
Oaxaca,
Yeah.
And my parents brought me over here, and then I grew up in Venice. That's where we touched base and kind of branched out and grew some roots out here.
Yeah.
There's a pretty large Oaxacan community out here, so it was only right to grow up here. So I grew up at the beach, little beach bum, running up and down.
Did you surf?
I tried, but here's a funny story. My friend Ulysses, which is also from Oaxaca, he's the one that took me out surfing for the first time.
Yeah.
And I had no clue. He let me borrow a board, and I had these generic board shorts. As soon as I sat on the board to wait for a wave, that thing is shredded up the middle. So I'm like, all right, cool. I need to get out and get decent.
That's funny. And we're filming here in Venice, so you're welcome home, right?
Yeah. Thank you. It was a good excuse to come back home, because now I live up in the desert.
Yeah.
So going from a coastal place to out in the desert, big change and shit.
Yeah. And your dad runs with us over.
So he's the reason why I started running, actually.
Yeah, tell us the
He's
story.
been the marathon runner. So out in Oaxaca, he used to run races, do a lot of cycling. He even did jockeying. So he would horse race
That's
as
amazing.
well.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are. I think myself would say that I get all of my athletic genes from him, I guess. And he's the one that when we got out here, road runners would meet up at Westminster Elementary, right off Abercrombie.
Yeah.
And that's where the program was headquarters. And so literally we lived 2 blocks away from it.
Wow.
And so my dad would show up and run with them. And then I got to an age where I'm like, team sports is not the thing to do right now.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, let me pick this up. Maybe I'll spend more time with my father, and we'll have a thing to do. And boom, started running with them.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And I've been with the Roadrunners since.
Yeah. So that's part of your journey is because of your father and running, and that obviously you try to emulate him as well.
Yeah.
Right.
The original carrot was to beat his time. I'm like, if this old man could run a 308,
he did a 308.
Yeah.
What?
During the that stormy one, I think it was
yes, it was just pouring.
Yeah, pouring down,
tough.
and he had the smallest singlet, thinnest singlet with the baby shorts on.
Yeah.
And I was like, dang, if this dude is able to do this, for sure I could do this.
Yeah.
Little did I know.
He did a 308 there.
Yeah.
And that was 2010 maybe, right? 11.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
I remember
2011.
because I ran that race. It was just dreadful. Oh
yeah,
my
a lot
God.
of people like had to get like medically like taken off, hypothermia, like all that stuff.
It was really awful.
Yeah.
Man, that's amazing. I didn't know he did 308. That's so cool. So you didn't run in high school.
No, soccer was my thing. That was my jam.
Which is, the typical of very, incredible athletes like yourself who can run sub 3 is I find like they're all soccer players, or, they did play football as well, but soccer players, you guys run like, 5-7 miles a game if you really
and all out
add it up.
sprints and up and down the field chasing the ball.
Yeah.
A lot of coordination.
Yeah.
And then the training was always running.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So that's how you started your running journey, I guess, the foundations, right?
Yeah.
And then watching your father, and then you just started, just trying to, do you remember what you did, like your first half marathon?
So our thing to do before marathons was to do the Santa Monica Venice Christmas run.
Okay.
Back then they would have still the Santa Monica Classic, but also the 5,000 series, which was the same thing as the Santa Monica Classic. And so we would always sign up for the 5K. I would just sign up and wing it. And I would do pretty well. I remember what really got me hooked was one of the Christmas runs. I got like second place or third place. And at the time, there wasn't like just everybody gets a medal. It's only if you place in your division. And I was like, oh, snaps. Like, I got a medal. Like, this is pretty cool. I wonder what'll happen if I actually focus, dial in, and then come back. Maybe I could get first place or something.
That's amazing. And then you've been with the Roadrunners how long?
Shoot, I think it's been like 13 years, 14 years now.
13 years, yeah. And you ran the LA Marathon every year that you were involved?
Yeah, every year. Every year was the LA Marathon. The first 3 years I ran it as a participant, and then the remainder as a pacer. Yeah.
So you've run how many LA marathons? Do you know?
14, I think.
14.
Yeah.
And total marathons?
Oh shoot.
Yeah.
I went crazy these couple of years with marathons, talking about CIM, Boston. Mountains to Beach, a couple Big Bears, and all that stuff.
Revels.
A couple Revels, and so I've been pretty consistent with that, and so I think I'm now like up to like 33 or something. Wow. Like I don't know. I lost
stopped
count.
counting. Yeah.
And my garage has less room of putting medals on there between 5Ks and all that stuff.
I know.
So now they just go in a drawer.
Oh, you gotta put them up.
Only the medals that I like, or the ones like my ones. PR races. I'll keep them up. Yeah.
How many Bostons have you run?
3 of them.
Three
of them. I just went back to back to back. Just love the vibes, the energy out there. Because now I've been in the running scene for quite some time. I've been able to make friends outside of LA, out in Colorado. Shout out to Soft Hour, and a couple folks in New York and Chicago. So going out there, that's where everybody gets together, and we get some FaceTime. We get to hang out and just be around the vibes.
Yeah, it's like a traveling circus, right? You see the same people at every city, and just all become friends. And I always tell people it's a traveling circus. It's really.
I mean, I met you. You're from out here. I'm from out here, and we connected in Boston in front of the track house.
Yeah, right.
And that was pretty cool. I was like, "Hey, Rizzo, what's up?"
That's right. Yeah. And I remember we went on the Tracksmith run. The shakeout run. Yeah. And we went over St. Charles, and we went to the river.
That was so cool.
And then we went over the bridge, and I'm like, I'm going to go catch him. Right. No, you were gone.
Just running out there is so amazing. All the shakeout runs, being in the groups and all that stuff is breathtaking.
It's amazing, right?
Yeah, I'm always cheesing on the run, And everybody's like, shouldn't you be off your feet by now? I'm like, bro, there's so much going on.
So much going on, yeah.
I'm over here chasing elites, taking photos with them, and just chopping it up with everybody.
It's unbelievable, right? Yeah. So I didn't see you this past year, but the previous years when I saw you,
I went out there to challenge Kipchoge, and then his PR team made sure that I didn't get into the elite wave.
That's what I heard.
Put me in the back,
they pretty much shut you down.
They shut me down, threw a bunch of like drug testing on me, putting up every excuse that they could.
Yes.
And so they banned me for a year. So I didn't come back.
Yeah, but you're gonna be back, right?
I'll be back probably next year.
Next year you're going to be back? Yeah.
And now it's easier because I aged up. So, like, the qualifying time, it used to be sub 3. Now it's like 3:05.
And you already have your your time.
Yeah, I already have my time.
Yeah, you have to go next year because my wife, as you know, qualified.
Yeah.
So
Shout
she'll be
out.
up there for the first time. Shout
out
out
to Lovebird.
To Lovebird, yeah. Or Earth Angel, remember you
Oh, yeah. I thought it was Earth Angel. I was getting confused.
Yeah. So you got to be up there because it's, you know, we can all be together. It's going to be amazing. Yeah.
Or even just to catch the vibes is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's just...
I know my wife enjoys being out there and just getting a bunch of lobster rolls and all that stuff.
Yeah. So I don't know if you're still doing this, but you're running every day still?
Yeah, I'm still doing the no days off. It's a lifestyle now. Even if I wanted to, I can't stop running. It's just something I have to do.
Yeah.
And it's just been a very, very big part of my training and why I've been successful in running.
Yeah.
Of course, it's not for everybody.
Sure.
Having no days off is, puts you at risk for an injury or whatnot, especially if you don't know what you're doing or if you're relatively new. I feel like I have enough time in the game and I more or less know what I'm doing.
Right.
So that's something that has been fruitful in getting faster for me.
Yeah.
Not only physically faster, but mentally, like, has been fertilizing everything. Because if I'm going to go out every day, sometimes I'm catching super hot runs when it's raining.
Yeah.
Up in the Antelope Valley, sometimes it snows out there, so I'm out in the snow. Or some days I'll have like a 10-hour work day, and I still have to go get my run in, so I'm on tired legs. So I find a way where I could benefit from all that stuff,
And what number are we at today?
I don't know. I used to be really good at keeping track of like day this out of this, but as long as I'm clocking it in, and actually I've been pretty bad at uploading my data on Strava and even on Garmin Connect. People always hit me up like, hey, what's going on? Are you injured? Which I appreciate, It's super cool to have that community, that check-in and that accountability, which is what gives us all the energy we need to keep going.
Yeah, that's amazing. I've never met someone who runs every day and doesn't know the exact day, because you always see it on Strava, day so-and-so. They don't forget it for the life of them. But for you, that's amazing because it seems like you're just like, no, I just run every day and that's it.
Yeah, like I said, it's a lifestyle.
What do you think of the numbers at anyways? Has it been a year?
What has been a year?
Every day running?
This is my third consecutive year doing it. I've done it total for 4 years. In 2019, I took it on, completed it.
Yeah.
My friend Jose and Michael Herrera kind of turned me on to it, and they actually gave me a Tracksmith calendar. And I was like, cool, I could probably do this. Off. Yeah. And banged it out, and I was like, and that year I like went from like a 309 guy down to like a sub 3 guy. So I chopped off like a whole 10 minutes.
And you feel that running every day contributed to the...
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it just acclimated my body to that workload.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And then my fitness didn't dwindle that much too. So I was always ready to get into another training cycle.
Yeah.
And that was the first year that I actually did 3 marathons back to back, a month apart from each other. And, and kept on hitting that same mark. Which,
that's amazing.
Moving forward, every year has been 3 marathons. I mean, we started out of the pandemic. We did LA Marathon.
Right.
We went into, Boston Marathon in October. And then we did CIM.
Yeah.
And then that was a month apart.
Yeah,
and
pretty much,
that's when I finally cleared out 250 marathons. And I was like, what the heck?
That's crazy.
What's going on?
That's amazing.
And then the following year, now I'm in getting closer to 245.
Yeah. That's amazing. And do you have a coach?
I'm uncoached.
Uncoached.
Yeah,
I tell you all the time, get a coach. Cause,
Well, it's I want to see what I could produce just on my own knowledge base, and then see what a coach can really contribute.
Sure.
I've seen too many times where a coach kind of it's because of me, that this guy is this fast. No, he just picked up a fast runner, and that's what he was doing already.
Yeah.
So I'm like, let me see, and also trying to match up with the right coach as well.
Of course.
If I do get a coach, I need somebody to be on top of my business. Like, hey, you need to go do this and be meticulous with this, and that. Do your homework type of deal.
Yeah.
Because if it's nobody on top of me, I'm just gonna be all right, cool. I'm just gonna go jog it out.
Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me what you said right now about is it the coach? The coach taking all the credit. Yeah. I remember watching Des Linden talk about why she left Hanson's, because there came a point where it was like she felt like it was her, the athlete, that was doing the times, but the Hansons were kind of like, well, no, they were taking the credit. So
Yeah.
where was the middle part, you know?
Yeah,
And-
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
And I think it has to be a relationship like that.
Has
You know,
to
I
be.
can't just be one-sided.
Sure.
Or I
sure.
don't know, for getting the credit, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why I take it that so personal. But
Yeah. I mean, that's important to
Yeah.
you. So, yeah. So that was going to ask you, how do you train? Now we know you run every day, but when you're preparing for a marathon, I mean, you're putting in.
When
do
I'm
you-
dialing in, like, it's pretty, it's structured.
Yeah.
There's like a little bit of method to my madness.
Yeah.
I believe in a lot in K repeats. And so I have a unique way to do my speed work,
Yeah.
my threshold runs, and then the long runs as well.
Yeah.
When I am optimized, I'm running like 10 miles a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and then somewhere on Tuesdays, of course, the speed workout, I'm doing either 1K repeats by 10 or 2K repeats by 5. Essentially, it's going to be 3 miles of speed work.
Of course.
3 to 5 miles of speed work.
Yeah.
They just digested and broken up into different types of Ks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work. And do you like stick to like I'm gonna go 16-week program or 18-week program leading up to a race, or
Ideally, I would prefer a 6-month program.
Yeah.
A little bit longer. Make sure that the fitness and the strength is built up and maintained over time,
Wow.
rather than doing the crunch workout
Wow.
or blocks.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you build your speed or your fitness at
Yeah.
a certain level, and then it goes away.
Sure.
It's kind of like I don't know. I always think about it like kind of like bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Like, are you just gonna go hard at the gym and then take some time off and then lose like your gains?
Yeah.
Or are you gonna want something that's gonna be more long term? So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what my approach is, to
Yeah.
make sure it's long term.
Wow.
That way, when you do step away for a little bit, well, I actually don't step away,
Yeah.
but like when you get back into it, you don't have to go back to like the super basics, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
6 months, long time. Yeah.
Yeah. I
But-
mean, that's how you make sure you don't get injured too.
True.
Any wise coach will make sure you
True.
structure a 6-month training program, 3 months a front end being more base work, and then focus work
Yeah.
for the remaining 3 months.
I guess kind of like LA Roadrunner program. They start in September, races in
yeah.
March, 6 months. I guess they do cater towards like the newbie
The
or the
novice,
beginner
yeah.
runner, because
Yeah.
it will allow them to gradually get into that
Yeah.
rhythm. You know, too much, too fast, injured,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah, you don't want to get sidelined. And then in case, you know, you do need to take a step back because of injury, there's plenty of time to get back into it.
Yeah, yeah. Any goals that you have coming up in the near future, like maybe marathon wise, time wise, anything?
Yeah,
you're-
time-wise, I think I want to get closer to like 240.
Yeah,
See how close I could get to it. I think it's right around the corner, but you never know. You never know how the race is gonna pan out, and I think that would happen at CIM or
CIM.
a Mountain to Beach. But
Yeah.
I think CIM would be the one, because
ideal.
that one has like similar vibes to Boston, where
Yeah.
everybody shows up. And this past year, I had all the FOMO of being there,
Yeah.
just because all like the big heads that I look up to are out there.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah.
I guess that's an important part of trying to pick a race to qualify, you know, or to run a personal best is, you know, races like CIM, there's a different caliber of runner out there. And when that gun goes off, you're being pulled completely different,
Yeah,
right? As opposed to a different, you know, maybe a marathon where people are not, you know, necessarily flying across the country to get to try and run a PB.
Yeah.
You know, it's a different caliber there, right?
Yeah, at least in my experience for where I'm at right now in marathoning, if you go to like a not a lesser name, but like a smaller marathon, you're gonna be running by yourself.
Right.
If you pull up to like a CIM, a Boston, you're gonna have a pack to run with
Mountains to Beach.
and feed off of. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
At Mountains Beach, I did find myself a little bit lonely
Yeah.
at times, like towards the later stages of
Yeah,
the race.
yeah.
But yeah, like a bigger name that's known for a little bit more of a faster race, like those, like it's so much fun because you just like clip in, and at
Yeah.
a certain point, I'm running with like actual sponsored athletes and stuff,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool.
Crazy, yeah. That's amazing. And so you're 240. I mean, you're pretty much there. So
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
just an adjust. And the way that I think about it is like so crazy to even say. It's just like 20 seconds faster, like per mile. I'm like,
No.
that's a lot.
and those when you go into sub 3, every minute is almost the equivalent of 20 minutes, above
Yeah.
4 hours. Yeah. What about the Revel races? Any insight
So,
on those?
so that's what got me to break the 3 hour thing. Like, I kept on hitting like 3 hours, like on the nose, and I'm like, dang it, like I'm getting cut off by the times. Like, I can't make Boston because of this. I'm like, what can I do immediately to make sure I get in?
Yeah.
And so I jumped into one of them. I think it was like Revel Big Bear.
Big Bear.
And that was where I hit like a 253 or 252, and I was like, holy cow, I did
Yeah.
it. I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
I'm like, and then I went back to see if I could do it on a different course.
Yeah.
And yeah,
You did it.
you're able to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool.
But I think Revel races are great because they show athletes their true potential. Like, you could do it. Like, if you optimize yourself, like, and dial in, you could do this anywhere. If you could do it there, you could do it anywhere.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. Yeah, I have yet to try a Revel race. I've heard,
you got to train for it.
Yeah,
It's going to be a beating on your quads and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure you did that, right? You did your homework and trained and.
Oh yeah. This is like when Roadrunners. This was like a long time ago where they had barely popped into the scene, and a couple of guys that were looking forward to qualify for Boston. We're all like, all right, cool, let's get our stuff together. So we'd go out to like Ojai, Big Bear, and do like training runs.
Sure.
Like, somebody will have a van and like organize it. Like, all right, we're dropping you off right there, and then we'll pick you up at the bottom.
Yeah, it's so cool.
So a lot of organized runs. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool. Kind of changing topics, bringing up your hat, your shirt.
Yeah.
The famous LA Marathon finish line of you holding your stick.
Yeah.
The nice Wapples on there.
Yeah, Wapple Boys. Shout out to Noel. He's the one in charge of the whole Wapple Boys thing. It started like in 2019. Most of our stuff is just like people that love to run. It's not like an official run club, but it kind of became an official run club. I think it was like a run club more catered towards like charity work and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, every shirt has like some type of charity work behind it.
Yeah.
And all the proceeds gained from those shirts go to whatever it is, whether it be the Pitbull Fund, Angel City Pitbulls, or like towards cancer research, which is the most recent one. And then different random stuff that we kind of meet within the community of like folks that are like, hey, I'm about this, and we're like, hey, how can we help out?
Yeah.
And so my friend Noel like organizes all that stuff, gets it print, made the website, and got that rolling.
It's really cool. Yeah. Got some airtime on the LA Marathon.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. We like all of our singlets for race day, they're one and done. Like, it's never a repetitive thing. It's
I love that. Yeah.
We'll create some art. He'll collaborate with some artists and create the artwork, and then pump it out, and then boom.
Yeah.
And then
so cool.
Part of the Wapple Boys is unsanctioned. Shout out to Brian. That's more of a run club. They meet up in Pasadena Rose Bowl every Wednesday and go run out there and do their repeats and all that stuff.
We've seen them. I see them there.
Yeah. And so with them, the CIM run is all unsanctioned. So if you're a Wapple boy and mostly raise that flag, that day we're all unsanctioned.
Yeah, that's so great.
So it's kind of like interchangeable in a way.
Yeah.
That's
so cool. I love it. Your podcast, you have a podcast
too.
You want to talk about that?
All the small things. I have a podcast. I think we're on episode like 14. A little bit of a hiatus right now, trying to find really my niche on what I want to do.
Yeah.
The original niche was to highlight everybody out in LA, get their story. I mean, every runner out here has a story in their journey on why they're doing it, and I think it's all unique. We're all coming together with one unique sport, but we all have our own approach to it and why we do it. And slowly I've been having fun doing more race recaps. Like, how was your journey doing this, and how did you get there? And then circling back on the backstory of it.
That's kind of cool. Yeah.
I usually like to geek out more on what was your experience running this race. And what would you done differently and that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, just like if you had done a race, I'm going to ask you like, hey, how did it go at LA? Like, what happened?
Let's talk about it.
Yeah. Which I found myself doing while doing warm-ups when I would go to like track workouts and stuff with like my friends.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, like, I want to know more, but now we have to go into the workout.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
It's very intriguing.
Yeah. So thanks for bringing up the podcast.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't even know you had it. I think you were kind of flying under the radar. You weren't sure.
Yeah, so it's like an independent podcast.
Yeah.
Yes, kind of just doing it for the love, not really trying to, with no expectation behind it, just trying to document everybody. Like, I that came about after coming onto the Rambling Runner, and I'm like, hey, that's kind of cool that somebody had eyes on me and like and got me onto this podcast and all that
Yeah.
stuff, and had the time to kind of interview me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's so many more people that should be on this that I thought like, are way
Yeah.
better than me or have a better story than me,
Yeah.
and they deserve to have their
Of
story
course.
be heard. And so I'm like, well, if they're so stacked that they can't do it, like might as well
Yeah.
I should start it off, right?
Yeah.
And get the ball rolling.
Sure. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like you have this idea how you want to start the podcast, and then you realize you want to take it in a different direction.
Yeah,
you know? And I'm assuming that it's just going to completely keep changing.
Yeah,
as well as
absolutely.
this podcast will keep changing. Over LA
Yeah,
Marathon will
there's
be over.
evolution is only
Yeah.
natural.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's just so many topics to talk about
Yeah.
in the running community. Even when LA Marathon's done, and so we'll be talking about the Olympics coming to LA soon.
Oh man, that's so
right?
exciting.
So
Yeah.
it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, we'll see what happens, right?
Yeah.
So you said you're from LA. I want to talk about the LA running community. I mean, you've been in the community for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a conversation before we got on air about the old days.
Yeah.
Elaborate a little bit more on that and
Yeah, man.
what it was like.
I'm
for
so
you.
thrilled and happy that it's expanded exponentially.
Yeah.
It's freaking wild on how you could pull up to any city and there's going to be a club and an organized run.
Yeah.
Every weekend it seems like there's some type of event or some type of unsanctioned race that a certain club is hosting. I think right now, this morning, KRC had their run this
Yes.
morning from LA down to
Cease
Santa
and-
Monica
yeah.
Pier, cease
Yeah.
and desist.
Yeah.
Yeah, shout out to Dewey
Yeah.
and to KRC.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's super cool.
Yeah.
And I remember before I used to like drive all the way to like Montebello, Long Beach to go
Yes.
run with a couple of people just to
Yes.
kind of be in the environment and try to learn off of people. And very rarely, since I lived in Venice, there's no run clubs out here.
Yeah.
Like the only run club there was Blacklist for their summer series.
Summer series. Yeah.
And that was like on a Tuesday or something like
Right.
that. And yeah, shout out to Eric Blacklist.
Yeah.
And then now there's so many run clubs. I mean, Abercrombie's like littered with like Hoka, you have Lululemon, you have all these other
on
yeah,
and
and
Venice Run Club.
Venice Run Club.
Yeah.
And it's super wild on how it's accessible
Yeah,
now,
it's
which is
changed.
only good for the sport.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah. It's changed so much. I mean, God, back in the day, I thought it was Blacklist and
Yeah, there was like Blacklist, We Run LA, Cruda, and I forget what other
Run
clubs.
Delay, maybe.
Run Delay,
Boyle
yeah,
Heights
that was
Bridge
the LA.
Runners.
Yeah.
Been around a little bit.
Yeah.
More 10 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's incredible how it's changed so much.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, where's the time go, right? It's just
Yeah, it's crazy, and that's been a build of what, like over 10 years
at least.
as well. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it just seemed like it changed overnight.
yeah.
Maybe the running boom, the pandemic changed things.
I think that's where a lot of it grew as well.
Yeah.
But now people that I'm meeting, I'm like, when did you start running? I'm like, oh yeah, the pandemic, there's nothing to do, and just decided to get out there and bust a Forrest Gump, put on the shoes, and
Yeah.
start running.
Seriously. It's funny you brought up Montebello because I run into so many runners from across, LA area, and they talk about, I'm like you, I always ask them like, when did you start running? What's your story?
Yeah.
I'm always intrigued by that. And they all bring up the idea that years ago, 5 years ago at least,
Yeah,
the only place that can run was with Angie at Montebello, Run, right?
Yeah.
And it's like they were the only ones running at that time. I mean, besides Blacklist, and the
Yeah.
clubs we mentioned, but it's kind of funny. Angie really,
the biggest challenge was driving out to all of this stuff,
Yeah,
right? So
of
if like
course.
somebody in Montebello wants to come out with Blacklist or like another run club, like
Yeah.
the commute is gonna be crazy.
Yeah.
Like the run starts at 6, at 7, like
Yeah.
you're sitting in traffic.
yeah. Even now, I mean, I think about, I like to get out to as many clubs as possible, but, I think if you're not from LA, you don't understand that like getting from like Venice to like Pasadena is like traveling across the country. It's not possible.
You got to plan your day around that.
It's serious, right? It's just too crazy. So yeah, but yeah, big changes. I mean, I kind of feel like, you know, the pandemic came, it changed things, it made people want to get out, including myself. You know, I've always ran, but it made me get more involved in the community.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like, LA Marathon may be getting more crowded in terms of spectators. The race seems to sell out. And I think it's due to like a lot of these running clubs, you know, who get runners, and then, you know, these new members realize that all these people are running marathons and that they can do it too. And next thing you know, everyone's signed up for LA Marathon. So I feel like I'm excited to see what happens in the next, you know, couple of years.
Yeah, I think what's growing is culture and community within the running scene. And that's pretty cool because people that pull up to the course on LA during the race, like, you're just going to have people cheering for you.
Yeah.
You know, and those people cheering are going to come up just to spectate, and next year they're going to roll in and bib up, you know?
Yeah.
They're like,
that's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know a couple run clubs, they have like this challenge at the end. So like whoever raced that day, they call out like at least like 5 people, and the next year they have to. Well, they don't have to, but they're encouraged to run, and
you can't back down.
You're kind of like, all right, cool. I guess I have to do it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So let's go back to LA Marathon. You know, but first let's talk about the LA Road Running Program. You run here in Santa Monica. I ran last year for the first time. I had a great experience. You've been there for quite some time.
Yeah, I've been there for quite some time. Like I mentioned, it started off in Venice, and we would run up the boardwalk up to the golf course and to Palisades and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think a couple years before I joined, they used to have like a super big branch too. They would have people in Palmdale, Long Beach, like a bunch of other locations to meet up. Yeah. And then last year they had the Griffith Park group as well, which was pretty good and solid. And then I don't know if I'm supposed to leak this, but I'm gonna leak it. We're gonna have one in Balboa Park next year as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's expanding again, just with the growth of the running scene.
Don't worry, Coach David leaked it. And Lucy,
all right, cool.
Lucy looked at him like, "Oh, great, thanks."
I won't get in trouble then. I'm not gonna get fired.
Yeah. And by the time we release this, I think they already have announced it. So we're good. But
so I started off right there. Got with the road runners. Love what they had going on. And at the time being, I always like brag about this. It was coached by Andrew Castor.
That's right, Andrew. Yeah.
And so like whenever I get asked like, "Oh, have you had any coach?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've been coached by Andrew Castor."
Yeah.
And that's where I met Dina Castor as well. Met her, their daughter. They were very involved with the programming, and I think they jumped ship just because the sponsorship shifted. They went from like ASICS back to Skechers, and then now we're back with ASICS. So hopefully maybe we'll get more FaceTime with them and get some more ASICS athletes out to the program. Yeah,
I remember the story you told me that Dina came out to run with you guys, and and she ran. You guys are Group 0, so you guys run her speed, and you guys felt this pressure to run fast because you're running with this Olympian,
an Olympic, a medalist. She was like, "You guys are going too fast.
Like, what are you doing?"
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I ran the Cherry Blossom 10 miler in DC. And ran with Thomas from Believe in the Run. And Dina Castor. We ran.
Oh, that's right.
The 3 of us the whole way. And I actually. She talked the whole way. You know, we're doing 745, 750s, and she just the whole way. And I had the chance to tell her that story because we started talking about the road runners and her involvement and Andrew's involvement, and I did tell her the story of how you guys said you felt this need to go out fast, and she started laughing. She's like,
I mean, she's very decorated, man.
Yeah, so decorated.
I mean, that was like the first person that I would look up to for marathoning.
Yeah.
And then when I found out that we were gonna meet her, I was geeking out.
God,
dude. I was like, let's get a photo.
Right.
Miguel Magana had posters of her.
Yeah.
And I was like, let me have one. I need to get one signed. And Oh my God.
And then just to run with her on a training run.
Yeah,
is
that
just
was so cool.
phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you recommend the LA Roadrunner program to someone who's trying to get into the
Oh, absolutely.
yeah. And you of course are a pace leader there. You mentor a group of runners that are coming every year, and what's that like for you?
Oh, it's super cool. It's I think the people influence me more than I think I influence them.
Yeah.
Like I always learn more from them, their experiences, and it's more exciting to see their journey like build up.
Right.
And so I always get hyped up and like look forward to making out to the runs and just seeing them and catching up with their shenanigans. If you will.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I'm running G4, as you know, and it's always funny. We come back from our long runs, and you're sitting on the bench, and you've already changed shirts. You're ready at 8. You're just
we drank all the liquids, ate all the bananas. You're like, what the heck, guys? Leave some for us.
Yeah, I mean, but it's great that you guys, I'm sure you guys are done way before. You guys all stick around and still encourage everybody and stuff. So,
yeah, that's the cool part too about the program is that like there's no differentiating any athlete, not because of pace, time, age, or anything like that. We're all doing this thing. We're all jamming out 18 miles, 26 miles, whatever it may be. Yeah. And at the end of the day, we're all trying to achieve the same thing.
And the best part is we get to run at the beach. Right?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
That's
right?
the cool part. Yeah.
So back to LA Marathon. You are an LA Marathon ambassador.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that experience? This was your first year?
Yeah, this was my first year doing the ambassadorship. Yeah. It was pretty cool because it got me involved more with other things that they have going on, with other races that build up for the LA Marathon. Yeah. So I was able to pace. Not that many people know there's the LAUSD. They have a thing called 26 mile.
Okay.
So the kids, they run like a mile every week, culminating at Dodger Stadium. They run their last 1.2 miles. And that completes their marathon.
Their marathon.
And so these kids, like, they're little ones. They're like 3 years old up to like, I don't know, like 8 years old.
Yeah.
They're little and tiny, and they're so excited. Yeah. They're at Dodger Stadium. They do their run, and it's so funny because they go out all gas, no brakes. And like 0.2 miles in, they're cooked. They're cooked. And so then they're walking the rest of it. But there's a lot of talent out there too. Yeah. And so I help pace them, and sometimes they're like running like 5:30s.
That's crazy.
I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, this is wild. Like I'm trying to keep up with you. Right. And it's even cooler to see those kids like get their medals, be super stoked, and they're seeing like what it is to put in the work and achieve something, which I think is super cool. And I think us as runners, we're so annoying with our running analogies, but it translates so much and it gets utilized so much, and it's perfect. Yeah. And then my favorite part is the kids that get close to the finish line. They're just walking, they're hanging up the shoes already, and then you approach them like, hey, you see the finish line? And they're like, yeah, I see it. I'm like, you think you could run there? Like, yeah, I think I could run it. And then boom, they bolt off like out of they're like look like they're done. Yes. And then out of nowhere they get all this energy. Yeah. Well, anyways, the ambassadorship allowed me to do that. A couple of like 5K runs, allowed me to see the ins and outs of the LA Marathon and how much work it goes into them. Yeah. And kudos to them. Like us as like just participants, we're like, hey, just close the roads and we'll figure it out. Put some water out. Like, no, there's so much that goes into it that I still have trouble digesting.
Yeah, still in awe of it. Yeah. Yeah. So it gave you a different insight.
So I appreciate races a lot more. Yeah, Like when I see like RDs or race directors out there, I'm like, hey man, thank you so much. I thank them. Like Dave at Boston, I'm like, bro, like you're freaking crazy for organizing this, making sure it goes flawless as possible. And then still at the end of the race, when everybody crosses, you go out there and run the course yourself.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So that's, that was pretty cool. And then, of course, having the perks of, being the almost like the face of the LA Marathon. Absolutely. And the other ambassadors, getting to know them was pretty cool. Talking about stories, they all have their unique stories that I didn't know about, and then being able to
Amazing
engage and be
stories.
with them
Yeah.
was pretty cool. I mean, you got a little bit of insight right there, and
I
being
did go
able
to the
join
breakfast
us.
and to hear all their stories. I never knew half their stories until that day. It was just like, whoa, like that's amazing.
And to just meet people with genuine love for the sport and the race itself is pretty cool.
Yeah, I feel like you've kind of been in my opinion, the face of the LA Marathon. I mean, I was looking at Instagram this morning.
It seems to be that.
And it's you, like at every, every post, when they're promoting the LA Marathon, you're in the front there.
Yeah.
So I think
I keep on getting those screenshots of the marketing going out. I'm like, dang it.
Yeah.
Hopefully people are signing up and not like, oh my God, Miguel's on there. Like, I'm not going to sign up.
Yeah. It's been pretty cool to watch you, be kind of the face of that, it's your first year. So, and I know when we were at the LA Marathon Big 5K, which is the 5K the day before the LA Marathon, you were out there, pacing those kids as well.
Yeah.
Besides the race you were speaking of earlier, and KTLA is out there. They're all filming you and stuff. They've really been the face. It's been really refreshing to see.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. But like in previous races with LARR at the finish line, I typically get a interview with KTLA. With the exception of the Pasadena Half Marathon that I crashed your interview.
Can we talk about that?
Which was so funny. I was like, "Hey Rizzo, what's up?" You chopping it up, just talking to you like always.
Yeah.
Trying to catch up, and then you're like, "Hey, I'm gonna get interviewed right now. Just stick around." And then the lady pulls up and she's like, "Who the heck are you, dude?" And I was like, "I don't know."
That's right.
I just happened to be here. But that was pretty cool to get some camera time.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah.
And you were just standing there like this.
I was lost. I was like,
you messaged me after. You're like, what am I doing?
Looked like I was waiting for a bus or something.
Serious. That was a good day. It was fun. But yeah, it's been great to see you, in the ambassador program. So congratulations. And
Thank you.
You applied to do it again for next year as well.
Yeah, I did. I applied for it again. I forget who DM'd me, and I was like, I don't know if I should go back. And I was like, maybe give a chance and make space for somebody else. But I was like, I'll just apply, whatever.
No, I think that
they know what they're doing. So
if
I come back, I come back. If I don't, then that's cool too.
Yeah,
I'll be pacing anyways.
I don't know how you don't come back. I mean, you're on every post of the LA Marathon. So it's kind of great.
Yeah, so that was another leak too. So I had already told Coach David that I wasn't going to come back to pace, and I had made it public too on my own podcast.
Okay.
And so Coach David, in his persuasive ways, got me back over there for another season. So we worked something out where I'll be pacing for LA Marathon and
again,
coming out to Roadrunners every now and then.
Oh, good. And 255
so
LA Marathon.
So I think we're doing 255. There is talks of doing something even wilder, but I think 255 is where it's at.
That's amazing. Yeah. And going back quickly to the story about the children, and they do the 26-mile race. That's held like the week before LA Marathon.
Yeah,
I remember
correct.
At Dodger Stadium. It's so amazing to watch children run races because it kind of reminds us of, I feel like even as adults, we run because there's some kind of childlike adventure to getting out there every day and running. It's, we never forgot how to live that amazing childlike, and we do that every day. And, and
there's a funny thing, an ongoing joke that I have with my in-laws of me being un niño en pleno desarrollo means I'm still a developing kid. And so I like to think about it that way,
Yeah.
I'm just a old kid.
Yeah, of course. And I think, LA Marathon and the ambassadorship program appreciates that, hence, the energy that you bring. It's, it's evident that they continue to put you out. So, continue to do, that. So, LA Marathon, 40th running, thoughts, expectations. I was trying to get some, Lucy and David to spill some surprises. They said there are some things in the mix.
There's some big surprises. I won't leak that.
You don't want to get in trouble.
I'm gonna get a drop kick by Lucy for sure.
Drop kick, and then you won't be back as an ambassador.
I won't be back at all. They're gonna blacklist me off the race.
Sure. Okay, so from what you can share, thoughts, expectations for March 2025.
So it's a big name. I think there's going to be a couple like big names that are going to pull up because it does mark a couple anniversaries for many things. I think it's going to be an anniversary for the Olympics being held in LA. So I think maybe there's going to be something in relationship to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if don't get FOMO, sign up for it. Sign up early.
Yeah.
People are always holding off for my promo code for LA Marathon, but to be honest, it's always cheaper before anything goes up. So right now is the cheapest. Sign up for the program, get that huge Conquer medal. So get the Santa Monica 10K, the Rose Bowl half marathon.
Yeah.
And then don't miss out.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great one. Yeah. And anything you wanna I did want to ask you this before we get into something, but favorite LA marathon moment? Do you have
favorite
one?
LA marathon moment? That's funny. I think it's gonna be like 2019. I think it was right before they were gonna shut down everything for the pandemic, and they did right after the race.
Yeah.
Everybody was so uneasy about that, and I think that year I paced like a 3-hour marathon or something.
Okay.
And I remember having so much fun, just cause like we didn't know if it was gonna happen or not happen, and they're like, yeah, just show up and we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And then that day, I remember I was like, oh, this could be like the last one for a while. And so I was like, I better enjoy this. So I remember just running it. And typically when I'm racing, like it's just blinders.
Yeah.
Like I'm not paying too much attention to my surroundings. I remember right there just taking it all in, like, oh, shoot. I'm going to see the Hollywood signs like 5 times. Let me see if I could catch it. And boom, I'll catch it at every angle.
Yeah.
A couple of friends have shops down Hollywood Boulevard. I was finally able to see like, oh yeah, there goes my friend's shop, their tattoo shop, this and that. And then just being around the crowd and just taking all the energy was one of my favorite moments.
Yeah. That's cool. Favorite LA marathon course you ran? How many courses have you run?
So the one that would have a really good response is my dad.
Yeah.
He's been running it for like 20 years.
Yeah.
So he had the one that ended up at the Coliseum. Started at Universal Studios, ended at the Coliseum. I think they did 1 year Universal Studios, the Pier, and then the Stadium to See one is always everybody's favorite one. Everybody's always wanting it back. But I don't think I have a favorite one. Because for me, it's just Stadium to See and Century City.
But you prefer between those two?
I don't know.
Doesn't matter.
I like the challenging aspect of Century City. Like something about it being challenging and you having to earn it and build yourself up for it.
Yeah, I like that.
I love it because when you click your time, like you're like, whoa, I did it.
I like
it was
that.
worth the squeeze. In a way.
Sure.
But I think maybe Stadium to See would be a much more enjoyable race. I guess.
Because of the scenery and ending
the
at
scenery,
the beach.
ending it. You have the canopy on San Vicente and then the straight shoot down Ocean Boulevard. Yeah. And then you could jump into the water if you want to get that cold bath.
Yeah. And that was your first LA Marathon experience, Stadium to See?
Yeah, Stadium to See,
Yeah. See, my first LA Marathon experience was starting in Dodger Stadium. Starting in downtown LA and ending in downtown LA. So if I could choose one, it would probably be that one because... it's nostalgia. You want to relive, that first experience.
It's kind of like my first medal for LAM. Like I cherish that one so much, and I love it so much.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, Miguel, what's next for you? Any
what's
races,
next for me? A little bit of a hiatus until LA Roadrunners kind of kicks in. Just taking a little step back from the sport. Of course, still running. But in regards to racing, like nothing really in the horizon. Yeah. Maybe spur of the moment, jump into CIM and see how that goes. Okay. But it's really in the back of the mind. Yeah. So nothing until like LA 2025. Yeah. 2025, and then maybe mountains to beach and get into the rhythm of things.
So we may see you in Sacramento in December. Of course, March here in LA. Mountains to Beach. What is that? April.
Beach, yeah. Or maybe.
What about Boston next year?
Yeah,
so
maybe
we'll see you in Boston next year.
Yeah. Asterisk on Boston. Maybe jump into the other world majors and start that journey. since I've already done it like 3 times. Maybe finally jump into Chicago.
Right.
Or throw my name in the bucket for New York.
Yeah.
And then travel abroad.
Yeah, why not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was never on my list too, but might as well. I'm kind of halfway there. So, yeah. And then if people wanted to find you on any social platforms, Instagram, it's Smalls.
Yeah, you can find me on Smalls 26.2. And that's pretty much where I'm mostly active. You'll see a bunch of stories once I go into training that usually are more consistent with posting right there.
Yeah.
Right now I'm just reposting and sporadically posting running at the moment.
It's kind of an off season, I feel like.
Yeah.
And then your podcasts, where could we find?
Oh yeah, the podcast, you can find it on Spotify and iTunes, or podcasts, I guess. This podcast iTunes. And so that's at all the small things.
All the small things.
Okay. I may have to rebrand. It always gets lost with the Blink 182 stuff, which was my inspiration from it. I'm a big Blink 182 fan and thought that would be kind of cool. And it kind of like goes together with like my Instagram handle and all that stuff. But it was like a shooting myself in the foot when people come to search it. So maybe if you put my name on there, it'll be a better search. Yeah. So Miguel Peralta, and then it should populate.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'll put all the links where you can find Miguel on his podcast and as well as social media. But thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been a great relationship, friendship with you. So I look forward to us running more together next year. And
Hell yeah.
Yeah, LA Marathon. So.
Hell yeah. Make sure to hit that like button, that subscribe button to Rizzo Runs. What's your podcast name? I don't even know.
Rizzo Run Club.
Rizzo Run Club. Let's do it, baby.
Right?
You know where the good content is?
Yeah, all gas, no brakes, baby.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but again, you can go to RizzoRunClub.com. My goal this year, my mission for the 40th running of the LA Marathon is to make the race accessible to those who cannot afford it. And, registration fees get higher and higher each year. And I've noticed that traveling from running club to running club here in Los Angeles, a lot of people do want to participate in LA Marathon, but the fees get too big. So you could go on to RizzoRunClub.com. You can make donations anywhere from $5 to $1,000. Also, if you're somebody that needs assistance, who is going to seek out help with registration for the marathon next year, I do want you to run this race. So you can go to RizzoRunClub.com, click on contact. You can put your name and your information, send me a message why you need assistance to run this race, and I will do my best to make sure we get you registered for the race based on donations. And I always say, if you're in Las Vegas the previous week and you're on my site asking for help, this is probably not the program for you. So I hope that you would respect that. And also, if you do need assistance, any communication between you and I will remain strictly confidential unless you'd like to come on here and tell your story. But again, that will be between you and I. But RizzoRunClub.com. And thank you for watching. We will see you on the next one. Thank you.
All right.
That's it. This episode was self-produced and filmed in Venice, California. Special thanks to Lauren Hiltzer and his production company, HK Corp, for allowing us to film at their office. The best way to support this channel is to subscribe and like. If you are interested in sponsoring an episode, you can contact me at Rizzo@RizzoRunClub.com. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week.